So I'm going to be remaking a very old video of mine from like 2011 or something that was bad. Basically, I'm going to say how you can show if a cube is that it's scrambled, if it's solvable or not. Yeah, that video I didn't really understand how to do it properly. Like I was trying to say how you tell the corners, and I had not really a proper understanding of, well, see if I twisted it properly. But anyway, so as you can see, here's a standard cube. It's solvable, of course, because, yeah. But basically, there are three things you need to be aware of if you want to check if it's scrambled. It is the edge orientation, the corner orientation, and then the number of cycles to solve pieces. I'll get into that a bit later. So the more simple, first one is simply just EO. Now, if you know EO recognition, it's simple. You just got to count, and there need to be an even number. There has to be an even number. If not, you've got a problem, because basically the way that you do all the algs, you have flip two edges. So if you have an odd number, you have to physically, take a piece out, flip it, and put it back in. But yeah, just to go over quick EO, if you don't recognise it, effectively EO reduces the cube to being solved with R, L, U, D, F2, B2. So you don't do F or B turns to solve the cube. So basically, for example, in this orientation, because each one is different, this is misoriented, but I'm not going to go over EO recognition too much. Basically, if the piece can be solved with in that specific orientation with an F turn is involved in the solution. So for example, this edge, I need to do FD to solve it, and for example, that's F, then it's misoriented. So of course that means you just count them up, learn the EO recognition, and of course if there's an odd number, then you know you've got a flipped edge. When it comes to the corner twist, it's slightly more complicated. I believe with it, it's sort of got to add up to a multiple 3, but then how does that work? So the way I explained it in the last video is by looking at one layer. Look at white and yellow, for example. It doesn't matter which colour you choose. I think it does make a difference based on where the centres are. Maybe, I'm not sure. But yeah, we'll just do white and yellow since it's the white centre. That removes the problem. So we look at it and recognise the case. So what we have here is, well, it's just assume. If that's the case, then you check the other side, and it's also a normal standard case you get with like last layer corners. If you know your CLL, ZBLL, COLL, the 202 cases, whatever. I don't need to go through them. If you have two of those, then yeah, that's fine. Your corners aren't twisted, but you could end up the case like this. So we've got the headlights here, because remember we're treating white and yellow as the same colour for this, and this is sticking out here. Now, check the other side. Okay, you also got a case that's not like a standard solvable, corner case you'd expect in last layer. So now this is where you have to do some counting. Now this is the part I didn't really understand back then. So if we go around clockwise and count, effectively a mod for yellowish 3, but, we'll count. We'll see, white, so we'll go 1. Now let's see the next one. Oh, that's 2. So what's 1 plus 2? That's 3, and we'll treat that as 0. Alright, let's do the next one. Oh, 2. 2, so that's 2 plus 2 is 4, that's 2, because we're doing in multiples of 3. And then we go through all of them, and if the number we end up with isn't a multiple of 3, then it's not solvable. It means you've got a corner twist. So the reason why I was counting 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2 is since it's a multiple of 3 and that's all you care about, it's not entirely necessary to count up to like 12 or whatever, because since you want a multiple of 3, you just need to check that. It's kind of like with CSP, how when you count you just go 0, 1, 0, 1, since all you care about is odd or even, which is, if you want the proper mathematical term, cutting in modulus 3, which if you think about it, the most simple way to explain it is like with a clock. When you're talking about like 12-hour times, it's like, it's like 10 o'clock, and what's the time in 5 hours? It's 3 p.m. So yeah, you get the idea from that. But yeah, so the last thing then you need to check is parity of the, basically if you know blind solving, you need to check if it's got parity or not, or at least they need to match. The corners and edges need to match, because technically speaking, all solves have parity, because parity, it's even or odd. It's just in cubing, parity just usually means the other case that's where, just the bad case that you get some of the time. So yeah, if you know blind, you just have to count the cycles. So it's like, that's 1 cycle, that's 2 cycles, and then you get the idea. You just have to count the cycles of edges and corners. And if you know anything about blind, which you're going to have to be able to tell this, if you get parity on the edges and you don't have it on the corners, then you've got a problem, because they need to agree. The corners and edges need to agree and with the parity in terms of evenness or oddness. If they disagree, then you've got 2 swapped edges. Now, yeah, so that's basically all it is. I'm sure there's the mathematical reasons behind it. I'm not entirely sure what they are. It's got to do with the whole group. Since, I'm not going to go through the actions of the group. It's relatively simple, but the way I've always thought of it is that is the move to get 1 flipped edge. I think the reason it has to be even numbers is probably because of the even numbers of edges and stuff. I don't know, because with the Megaminx it's kind of a bit different. I think you could apply the same for Megaminx, but man, there's so much more on a Megaminx, and I'm not sure what EO would look like on a Megaminx. But yeah, that's basically it. The last thing I'll cover is big cubes. So the 4x4, the only new piece type is wings. And of course wings can have pure 2 swaps. So you don't need to worry about your wings. Only your corner twists. Because the X centers, well, the thing about X centers is I'm pretty sure you only need 3 cycles, but then this comet is a 3 cycle, but it swaps 2 comms on the same face, so effectively it's a 2 swap. Even though it's a 3 cycle, it appears to be a 2 swap because you're changing 2 of those pieces in the 3 cycle, completely interchangeable, and it makes no difference where they are, because those 4 X centers, they're always the same. Like, for example, with a Y perm, that actually does a U2 to the center. You can't really tell unless you're doing on a supercube. I can't give an example of that. Just so that's why you need to ideally do centers first, and 4 blind and 5 blind. Okay, again, just have to use a cube stack. With 5x5, midges are your edges, if you didn't know that already, and then plus centers and X centers are the same as before. Well, plus centers are the same as before, and the same applies for obliques on big cubes. So basically, to summarise, you need to check your corner orientation, your edge or midge orientation on big cubes. Check both those, multiple 2, multiple 3 in the way I described before, and the cycles add up overall for corners and edges. So they need to agree. So either both odd or both even. Kind of similar like how with CP parity recognition, CPP, corner parity, CP square 1, where you do, parity at CP, which people did before CSP was developed. You recognised it by checking the U and D layers, and if you had one that had a PLL and one that had a parity PLL, then it had parity. So yeah, this video, I don't know, it does feel kind of pointless to make. It's not the most useful information. Maybe someone will get something out of it, but it's more to just kind of actually make a proper version of a video I tried to make way back in 2011. At least this time I'm not recording it with a shitty webcam of my netbook, because that was another part of that video. The quality of the video is awful.